It has been a while since Udo Erasmus has been in the classroom, and we've talked about oils and essential oils, and we've talked about other things that are about improving carbohydrates. And all the different things that hurt our body. But today we're going to start talking about our bone health and go from bone health to wherever the conversation takes us. Because if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, how did that happen? How does our body break down? And we're very fortunate because today we have Udo Erasmus. He's got a PhD in nutrition. And I'm really excited that we get to learn, kicking off the year, we're going to get to learn the best way to work with our body that works best for us. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Udo Erasmus, PhD, is here to do just that. Welcome back to the classroom, Udo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Now share a little, because it's been a while. You came in the classroom last June. It's been a while, but you're a busy man, and we're grateful that we have you in the classroom. So share a little bit about your background and what led you to your passion that you are, I mean, at your age, you look amazing at any age, but at your age, and we'll reveal your age in a little bit, you are just very passionate about staying as healthy as you are.
Okay, so I was born during the Second World War in Europe in 1942. So you can do the math. Yes. And I was in Poland, which was then part of Germany. And I was a refugee kid when I was 2.5. We were in horse-drawn hay wagons on dirt roads, mothers with young children. And the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the good guys, the Allies, there was no military presence on those roads. The Allies were shooting at us from planes. And they were using us as target practice. So it was pretty intense. And I just remember not feeling safe, not knowing what I could rely on, because every day you got different instructions because it was no stability in the environment. And in that time, we lost everything. The farm in Latvia where my parents were living, they lost the farm, we lost the culture, we lost the neighborhood, we lost the friends, the people that we lost everything except life. Mm-hmm. We still had life. And so I came, and I was very studious. I was very bookish when I was a kid. I read my first book about the discovery of Troy when I was 8 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I went to my mother and I said I was really sad. She said, "Why are you sad?" I said, "I've just read this book and I'm never going to read a book again because I can't believe that there could possibly ever be as good a book as this one."
Oh, wow.
And after that, I've probably read 5,000 books. But so part of the world of books was safe. That's why I liked it, because you could read about a war in a book, but there are no bullets flying. I already had the bullets flying. It was not good. And I remember being hungry, and it's like, lots of like, and I was very shy. And I got to a point when we made it out of, I got left behind and ended up in an orphanage for a short time. And eventually we got reunited. When I would listen to adults argue, and it always made me uneasy because they'd get so intense. And they'd argue about stuff that I thought as a 6-year-old were really trivial. And one day when I listened to another argument, and like nervous, like, so, I hope they don't see me, right? The thought occurred to me, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And I'm going to find out how, like a little 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything. I'm just going to find out how. That's been my driver all my life. And what I'm particularly most interested in is health, which is based in nature and human nature, and human nature itself. Because, we always look away from ourselves. That's what our senses always take us out into the world to monitor change. It's for survival. It's important. But when do we ever look inward to see who we actually are, to what is it? What are we in the space our body occupies?
Mhm.
And I'm not talking just about guts and liver and brain. I'm talking about energy. You know, what is there to see in the darkness inside? What is there to hear in the silence inside? What is there to feel in the emptiness inside? And so if you want to know what human nature is, you have to spend time sitting quietly, stillness practice, I call it,
Mhm.
to get present in what's there. And when you do, you discover that's where your peace lives. You want peace? It's already your foundation. It's already your foundation. Not only is it your foundation, it's the foundation of the entire universe.
Yeah.
And in that peace is energy, and that energy is a solar energy fraction. You know, it's solar energy that radiates from the sun through 93 million miles of space, through the atmosphere, through green plants. And that fraction of solar energy is stored in bonds between atoms. Those are our food. When we eat them, we absorb the nutrients, those molecules. And then in our cells, we break those bonds and the solar energy is released. And now we call it life, life energy. So life energy is solar energy. We are solar energy gadgets.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
and that energy has a message for your body, and it's the same message that the great masters had for humanity. And the message, in the words that I got it in, I am come not to judge but to love. I am come not to judge but to love. Right? That's the message of the masters to humanity, and it's the message of life, the master within you, to your body. And life is unconditional, empowering love, 24/7, 365, lifelong. Never goes on strike, never asks for a raise, never is mean to you. You know, even if you curse your life, it still loves you unconditionally, takes care of everything. It runs everything, weighs nothing, runs everything. Right? And then that shine, when you get in touch with that, you feel so cared for that the only thing left to do is to help where you can, because it's like, not about me anymore. I'm good. You know, I have peace. That's important. I'm unconditionally loved. Oh my God, I live in heaven.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, where can I help? What needs to be done? How can I make the biggest splash for good that I can make in the time that I have?
I love that. And I love the fact that you took a little 6-year-old boy who didn't feel safe, and you've nurtured that 6-year-old boy within you to
Mm.
feel safe today, and to
Yeah.
be able to sit in silence, because really it is in the silence that we hear God speak to us. Sometimes we get too busy
Yep.
and too noisy and all those things, and we can't hear the voice of God through all the noise. And so I
Yep.
love that stillness, that and that stillness is what comes from within us, so that we can create other wonderful things. If we don't have that stillness in us, if we don't have that connection to that source of the God that created us and gave us the power to create, if we
Yeah.
don't have that connection, we can do nothing. And it's
Well,
frustrating.
yeah,
Life can be very frustrating.
or we can do damage.
Yes.
You know,
True.
because we're doing a
True.
lot of damage. If you want to change it, something in us needs to change. And
Mhm.
all that needs to change, nothing has to be added, because we're not creating any of that, but we have to experience ourselves in a different way, not as incomplete, not as something's missing, not as what do I have to do, not as anxiety, not as fear, but as wholeness, as fullness, as oneness, as love, as peace, you know, all the good stuff.
Very good.
And
Very good.
I'm the richest person I know,
Yeah.
because and probably you could be. I mean, every human being.
We all are. Yeah.
If we do that, we will become the richest person we know,
That's right.
because we have it within us. It's all within us.
I totally believe that.
It's like, oh
I
my God,
believe it. I
incredible.
believe this to the level, the highest level as possible. And
Yeah,
I always, and we're kind of going off topic, but I love this topic, and I could talk about this topic all day
yeah,
long,
yeah.
because when I look at scripture, and I look at scripture as, for example, I am the I am. So
Yeah.
I had mentioned to you off the air, and I might as well talk about it now. On February 3rd, 2024, we're going to have the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. The I Am is the God in me, and I can do all things. And when I look at scripture and I read scripture with God within me, and if I had just a speck of God's power, I could do all things. And
And,
that to me
and
is,
you do have a speck of God's power.
I
That's
know I
called
do.
that's called your
I,
life.
I know, I
That's
know.
the speck.
But I always propose it as a if, because not everybody understands this
Mhm,
power. So
mhm.
if everybody, so like, let's go with if, for someone who may never have thought of God inside, because we think of God outside of us.
Mhm.
If, that's that if possibility, which we know, you and I know, and the majority of the people know it's true, but still we act as if God is not inside of us. We
Mhm.
we 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 make God into this riddler that makes things complicated, but that is us who's
Yep.
doing that, not
Yeah.
God, not God. So
Yeah.
with, go ahead.
The distinction is that God, everybody's been told God is everywhere.
Hmm.
Well, if God is everywhere, God has also got to be inside of you.
That's right.
Hello.
That's right.
Right? But we
Yeah.
were told, some people said, well, God is everywhere. Oh, well, then God's inside me. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
when I was growing up,
everywhere means everywhere.
when I was growing up, God was in the tabernacle, and I'm like, no, God can't be contained in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just had a hard time with that. I just
Yeah.
certain things just don't add up for me, but that's okay. It adds
Yeah.
up for some people. It just didn't add
Yeah.
up for me. So let's, provided that, and I would say, let's make the base of our conversation be rooted in that knowledge of that power that is within us, the
Yeah.
I am. So with that in mind,
Mm,
um, when we look at how many people in this world have failure to thrive when it comes to their health.
yeah.
We see people with osteopenia, osteoporosis, degenerative diseases. We have, autoimmune diseases, and it
Yeah.
all spans from this disconnection, I think, that we have not given God the power within us to heal us. And when we do that, we make better choices for ourselves. So
Mhm.
why is it that people break down and get unhealthy, such as to the point where their bones become brittle, and have a possibility of fracture?
Mm. Well, I think one of the best teaching tools comes from the astronauts. So the astronauts go flying around in their or sitting around or doing stuff in the space station. And it's a zero gravity situation. And if they're there for 3 months, 6 months, they lose something like 15% of their bone mass. Because bone is built through gravity, through stress. And if there's nothing to do, you don't need any bones. You could be a jellyfish, right? If there's nothing, on the planet, on the on the continents, on Earth, on the ground, there's always, we're always pushing against gravity, right? And the more we do that, the stronger our bones become. So if you don't have any gravity, you lose your bones, because you don't need any bones in space, right? Because there's nothing to push against,
Mhm.
right? So, and then the other thing, that women get more brittle bones than men do.
Mhm.
They weigh less, and it's particularly a problem for slim women who don't weigh a lot. And you don't hear that people who are obesely overweight have osteoporosis. Why is that? Because they're lugging much more weight around. So
Mm.
their bones stay strong. They get all kinds of other problems,
Mhm.
heart disease and cancer and all kinds of other problems, but not bone problems, because bones are built through effort. So the simplest way to keep your bones strong is to carry stuff around, is to make your bones think you weigh 50 pounds more than you do, because then your body will make you bones that are good for someone who weighs 50 pounds more than you do. So carrying your grandkids around, and or carrying your shopping bags, and if you don't have any work that requires you to lift and carry things around, then you have to do it deliberately. That's why people go into gyms and do strength, weight-bearing exercise. You want to build bones, and there are people in their 80s who are completely out of shape, who have bone problems. And they go in the gym and they start gradually, and they work up. And even in their 80s, I've seen pictures of people who started working out in their 80s and built major muscle as well as major bone by doing that.
What would be so because of lack of exercise, what is causing the loss of calcium in the bones, or what is causing the loss? Is it sedentary lives?
Well, there are always three specific things in terms of the bone material.
Okay. So
the one would be deficiency of essential nutrients, in this case mostly minerals, that are required in the bone structure. So calcium deficiency, magnesium deficiency, zinc deficiency, boron deficiency, manganese deficiency. Any of those could hurt your bone. So one is deficiency of essential nutrients. The second one is toxins that interfere with the functions in your bones, just like they interfere with functions in your heart and your brain and other parts of the body. Because we're all made, the entire body, bones and brain and eyeballs and everything are made from food, water, and air. That's it. That's the medicine. That's nature's, God's medicine for human beings, food, water, and air. But not white flour and white sugar food, but whole foods. So whole, fresh, raw, organic. That's how nature, that's the mandate for how creatures eat. Everybody except human beings. Fresh, whole, raw, organic. And then, all the other creatures except us, they don't have cars to drive around in. They walk and run, right? So we've done a lot but I'm getting ahead of myself. The third thing is poor digestion. Poor digestion will get you deficiency of essential nutrients, and you can create toxins in your own digestive system when it's not working properly. So it's always those three. So you got to bring in what's essential, and you optimize your intake. You got to you got to keep the toxins out, or sweat them out, or sweating is a good way to get rid of toxins. And you got to make sure digestion works, and we do that with digestive enzymes and probiotics, as well as fiber and bitters. And they do a lot for most of the digestive issues. And then the second part is, your body, if there's nothing to do on this planet, you don't need a body. You could be a disembodied spirit floating about because there's nothing to do. But if there's something to do, you need a body. So you need to do stuff. And that's the exercise part. Probably the easiest way, if you already have bone loss, probably is to bounce on a rebounder or a mini trampoline, because you get a lot of exercise when you just, even if you don't even jump off of the mat, you're just bouncing up and down like this, right? And that gives you a lot of exercise, and it's not damaging to your joints because it's cushioned, right? But you get a lot of good exercise, and then you build up with that, and you're always bouncing. When you bounce like a foot off the ground, and then you hit that mat, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you did that on the ground, you would, wow, there's a lot of jar to that, right? So that would be one of the easiest. And then you want to get into, okay, even you could just buy some, you could buy some secondhand books at the Salvation Army, put them in a little pack sack, and carry the pack sack around with you just to build your bones, even if you're not gonna read them. Or I put a rock in a pack sack. But something that makes your body have to adjust to weighing more than it does. So that's how you build bone.
That's interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
you mentioned calcium and all the, Dr. Thomas Levy, we've had Dr. Lee Cowden, we've had other say that we should never take calcium
Mm-hmm.
because that is not the form that the bone it becomes toxic and it calcifies our arteries when we're, and all these people are taking all these supplements with calcium.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion on that or your research?
Well, yeah, the issue is calcium is an essential nutrient, like an essential mineral. So you have to have calcium. But there are people who eat only plants whose bones are stronger than the milk drinkers. And the issue isn't so much that calcium is wrong, it's that you're not getting all the other parts, because there's not just bone, there's not just calcium in bone. There's also magnesium, and there's also manganese, and there's also boron, and so you need them all. So calcium becomes a problem when it's in the wrong ratio with the other minerals. And so people say, well, don't drink milk, because when you drink milk and you eat dairy products, there's about 7 or 8 times more calcium in milk than magnesium. And that's way out. That's way off.
And we need more magnesium.
If it was twice as much calcium as magnesium, that would work. If it was the same amount as magnesium, that would work. And so we have a population that where 80% of the population doesn't get enough calcium. Doesn't get enough magnesium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're deficient in magnesium, and then calcium without magnesium becomes a problem. So when they say don't use calcium supplements, they should be saying, no, bring in magnesium supplements, right? Bring in mineral supplements. Eat whole foods where you're getting the minerals and vitamins, and even without a supplement, right? But supplement if you have to. But you can, and there is research that says that when you get a lot of calcium and not enough magnesium, then calcium will go into soft tissues. That's where you get your stones from sometimes, and that's where you get literally calcium excess problems.
Mm-hmm.
So the balance is just really important.
Very important.
And there's research that says that people who take too much calcium, their bones actually become more brittle.
Correct. Yeah. Because it's not the same, because what Dr. Levy says is that that we do not absorb the calcium the way that we're thinking. So if what we're doing is, if we're taking a calcium supplement, that it goes into our bloodstream. It does not go into our bones. That there are, when you mentioned magnesium is you take more magnesium, and he says that magnesium and calcium, magnesium will take care of the calcium. And it will, the way I understand it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing how we're all alive. It is amazing how we're all alive, because we've been taught so many things that are incorrect.
Yeah.
And so I remember when my husband was diagnosed with osteopenia, he had actually, I think it was osteopenia, and it was almost osteoporosis. The first thing, thank God, we had some great doctors. He said, stop eating dairy. You need to exercise. And he changed his whole lifestyle to help them. And I don't believe he has osteoporosis or osteopenia anymore. And so can that be reversed? Can people with osteoporosis, because they gave him Fosamax and that made his jaw brittle. And it was not the best thing for him. I'm not saying that people that are on it should stop it. Maybe you can, but I can't say that. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. But I'm just saying that there was so much side effects from taking medication than if he would have done it totally naturally.
Yeah. Well, so talking about drugs, there's not a single problem that comes from pharmaceutical drug deficiency. They don't belong in the body. They're unnatural. That's why they have side effects. They never existed in nature. So life never made a good program to break them down and deal with them. So, but bones are made in nature out of natural stuff, right? So the idea of going to something unnatural, and of course we call it healthcare when it's actually disease management and symptom suppression, and they're good at crisis intervention and they're good at symptom suppression. But do you want symptom suppression, or do you actually want healing? Because healing comes from nature, and it's like there's no way around that. And what we've done is we've created business, unbelievably good business, based on patents, which are only possible for molecules that don't exist in nature. So you get to patent them and you get to protect profits for 20 years with a patent, but it has to be unnatural. So, but health, you can only be healthy if you live in line with nature and your nature. That's the law. That's God's law, right?
I love it. Yeah.
And then we live out of line with it, and you cannot stay healthy if you live out of line with nature and your nature.
Yeah.
That's sooner or later, it catches up with you.
Okay, so I just was in conversation with somebody, and they said that they had a friend who had diabetes, and I said, you can reverse that. And like in a very short period of time. And they said, oh, no, it's hereditary. Theirs is hereditary. And I wanted to say the only thing that we inherit, we do have a small amount for our DNA can cause disease, but very, very, very small. What we inherit are the family recipes, how the family stressed, how we learned all these behaviors. And and so it's like when somebody says to you, it's inherited, what is your comeback? What can you say to someone who believes that they are victims of their DNA?
Okay, well, the DNA, given that the DNA has been being perfected for a very long time, it's a really good program. And most things that go wrong with us is not that the program is wrong. And now we're blaming the program that God made, and a lot of effort went into making that program. Right? Now we're blaming the program when we should be blaming our misuse of the program. And what I say to people is, yes, you inherit genes. That's true. You get half of them from your mom and you get half of them from your dad. Genetics was my field in the university, biological sciences, right? So you get half from mom and half from dad. So you do inherit things from your parents. But you also inherit belief systems, ways of thinking, and habits. And most of the problems, most of the health problems that run in families come not from bad genes, they come from bad habits. And bad habits run in family. You saw your mother do it, you do it. Your kids see you do it, they do it. Right? So we inherit things that are not genetic. So there's a whole, and literally ways of thinking. Money doesn't grow on trees. Well, it does. You pick an apple and sell the apple. Like money grows on trees. You know what I mean? It's like so, and then we just memorize them, and then we just say it whenever it's triggered, and we've never ever actually thought about what I memorized, is it actually true? And then you start to examine it. It's probably half of your beliefs are BS. Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. One of them, it's like if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat it.
And now they're trying to cover up history so that we can repeat it.
Well, that too. But when you study history, you basically normalize bad behavior, because most of history is about bad behavior. All the wars that were fought and all this people who stole this from them and who killed who, and and then you normalize it, and then you say, oh, well, that's just human nature. Well, that's not human nature, because the core of our being is peace and unconditional love. And then instead of studying history, you need to study yourself, right? And then come up with your own understanding of what is true. Because it comes from truth, comes from observation. Knowledge comes from observation. If you're not paying attention to yourself, you're not going to know much about yourself. If you're not paying attention to what's going on in nature and how it works in nature, you're not going to have you're going to inherit the cultural out of line with nature habits. That's why cultures are different. They're all out of line with nature in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And then we follow them, and then we protect them, and then we defend them.
And we defend them. Yeah.
Why are we defending stuff that isn't even true?
Because that is our culture, the cancel culture. If it's like people don't belong, they don't feel like they belong, they don't, but they can belong to an idea, they can belong to an ideology.
But could we start by belonging to life?
Oh, that of course, of course.
And I when it comes to the conflicts, between one side or the other, on every level, we're talking about wars, but we're talking about philosophies. When it comes to conflict, I like to take the side of life. Why? Because the cancelers are alive, and the ones who get canceled are alive, and they have more in common than they have different, because all that's different is ideas that somebody made up. Correct. That somehow became popular, and that then become talking points. Yeah. And even in government, the right and the left, right? Yeah. They're arguing all the time. You know what? I like to be on the side of life there too, because they're both alive. Why aren't they talking about what we have in common? Right. Why aren't they talking about what we need in order to enhance the quality of life for all of the people who live here? Yeah. Because that's what government is supposed to be about.
That's right. But what happens is, if you go back all the way to the Bible, it started with, are you circumcised? Are you uncircumcised? I'm always dumbfounded. It's like, how did they know? How do you prove that? So, it's like there's division.
There's a special test. You have to drop your pants, right?
Exactly. There's the vision from that, black or white, gay or straight, transgender, not transgender. We've been, because the 99%, if they break us down, we become less than 1% ourselves. So the 1% can control the 1%. But if we just keep breaking it down. And it dawned on me, 3 years ago, when all this division and separation, or 4 years ago, when this whole thing started, where we became so afraid of germs that we were forced to wear a mask. And so I just couldn't understand. And it all of a sudden made sense that if we look at our commonality, which is what the center of this class is about, what do we have in common, which is a heck of a whole lot more than what we don't have in common. And so if we keep breaking down our commonality, then we have nothing in common, and they can control us. And so it is very important. It can control how we think, they can control how we feel, how we eat, everything, because they plant a seed of doubt that we are enough. And so when it comes to health and wellness, I always say that if people would start loving themselves and truly treating themselves with the love and respect that we deserve to treat our temple, then disease would go away. It would just go away.
A lot of it would go away, because from being discontent, actually, since we're on the topic, when we were in our mother's womb, and I call it the Buddha tank because that has a nice ring to it, but you could call it the Jesus tank too. You could call it the Krishna tank too, right? Yeah. You could call it whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. But when we were in a mother's womb, there was nothing to do and nowhere to go, and everything was taken care of, and it was pretty safe. So where was our focus when we were in the womb? Well, it didn't need to be anywhere except at rest inside, in its source, in life, and beyond that, in peace, right? So we're floating around in the tank, right? Sometimes you see a little smile on the face, right? And we didn't know we had a mother. We had no language. We didn't have to go to the bathroom. We just peed in the womb, right? We didn't have to breathe. It was boring, as boring as it could possibly get. And we weren't bored. We were in bliss, because we were inside of our own space in deep meditation. or whatever you call that stillness state, in deep stillness. And we were like little masters, without language, but little masters. And then when we came out, then we had to get to know the world. So our senses took our focus out. We ended up going from being present inside but absent outside to gradually becoming present outside and absent inside. And that disconnection from ourselves, from our wholeness, that's still there, but our focus isn't there. That disconnection of our focus from our wholeness is where heartache began, is where not feeling good enough began, is not feeling loved began, because we are unconditionally loved every moment of our entire life. And then we went out, and then we got, unlike other creatures who go out and come back to the space they occupy, we go out, and when you come back into our mind, and we miss the space the body occupies. That's why human beings need stillness practice deliberately, because we're the only creature on this planet. You know, the trees never even leave. So they're just like Buddhas, you know, they're just there. The animals, they go out and chase something, then they come back to themselves. And we go out and we don't come back to ourselves. We go into our head. That's the problem, right? And the heartache is the greatest gift we have. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. But it's the greatest gift we've been given other than being alive. Because if it weren't for heartache, which takes us out of our head, makes us simple, grounds us in feeling, if it wasn't for heartache, we would never find our way back home again. So heartache is the call of life, of God, whatever you call that, to bring our focus back home inside to where our abundant life lives.
I love that.
Right?
I love
Heartache, right? And everybody, what do we do with heartache? We don't like the feeling. So then we do what? Distract ourselves in 1,000 ways. Or we ignore it, or we deny it, or we make a theory in our head about it and then pull that over our head every time it shows its head, or we blame it on people. And when we blame it on people, we start the wars. We start the conflict, because no other person can be blamed for the natural, normal, necessary process of your disconnection from yourself. That's part of the human journey. There's no way around it. You can't blame anybody. But when you don't know that, and then you blame people, then you start to pick fights, and you start to have arguments, and then you start to have wars. And those wars and those arguments are taking place in perfect peace. And your life is filled with love. And you're having arguments because you're not paying attention to that. This is so important. You want to be, and then you create habits because you're saying, oh, I don't know, I'm angry, and then I see enemies where there aren't any. You actually create enemies. If you're afraid, then you create danger. Oh my God, what if, right? Then you create danger, and then you live into the world in a way that is destructive. But if you experience the peace and the love, say, oh my God, this place is so incredible. The peace is everywhere. The love is everywhere. The master lives within me, and the master lives within everything that's alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I really want to treat all of this with care.
Yes.
Wow, I live
And it is amazing.
I live in heaven on earth.
That's right. And it is amazing when you achieve that feeling, how wonderful you feel like you can eat. You don't need to eat the foods that you were eating before. And these
Right.
patterns can be changed. And
Yeah.
these patterns can be work. And I'm just going to take a little break here to talk about my website, and then we'll talk
Yeah.
about Udo's website as well. But I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we take 100. When I hear Udo speak, it's as if he's been watching my show forever, but I know that he's way ahead of me when it comes to that. But when go to whenyouneedafriend.com, please subscribe to the channel. This is where we all the website. This is where we come together. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know if we'll have the luxury of the internet in the future, but at least while or websites or social media, but while we still have internet, please subscribe to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, like and follow me on all social media. And also check out my sponsors, support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom, and do everything you can. Check out some of this free. Everything is free when it comes to our classes. So you can check out and start listening and learning about yourself, looking at yourself as opposed to looking at everybody else and blaming everybody else. And so this is a great start for
Yeah.
all of us. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and not only check out my sponsors, but also check out my Shop Now bag. All Lily approved products that are in there to sustain a healthy life. And I love that, choosing life over death. And so one of the things that I want to point out, and I've already spoken about, on February 3rd, we have I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. It's going to be in Florida. It's in Rockledge, Florida. We're going to have incredible speakers, and we're going to be learning ourselves how to break some of these cycles so that we can choose life for ourselves and choose love for ourselves, that unconditional love and unexpected abundance that we talk about in the classroom every time that we come together. So if you haven't gotten your ticket and you would like to join us, I am doing a very short period of time, Lily 001, Lily 001, and you will get $24 off your ticket price. I want to make sure that there's no excuse. You come to this, it's going to be interactive. We're going to learn about products and things that we can do, that we can choose so that we can be healthy. We also have, other workshops that you can do it yourself, because as people enter the first year of the first month of the year, everybody's excited. We're going to release weight. We're going to do better. We're going to take that course. We're going to take that lesson or whatever. And then by the end of the month, it's like, oh, I'm just so comfortable now. I just don't want to do any of that. So let's change our the way our 2024 is going to be by starting the year making choices that are going to be best for you. And you can choose whatever that is for you. And so go to whenyouneedafriend.com, like I said. And another thing that you can do to help out is you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation, or a multiple every month donation of your time, your talent, your treasure. Anything that you can do to help us grow is so greatly appreciated. So I want to encourage you to do everything you possibly can, especially become connected to that source that is God, the God in you. And so I just want to encourage you to do everything you can this year as we're starting off. Let's establish some really good habits. Okay, so today we have Udo Erasmus in the classroom, and you can find Udo at udoerasmus.com. By the way, if you're a subscriber already, then all you have to do is click on his name in the blog and it will take you straight to his information. So Udo, I want to thank you. You could have been
Yeah.
anywhere,
Well,
but
I
you're
want to
here
just
today.
I want to say just a couple more things, okay?
Okay.
Here, what is so important about it? Like the wise people always said, put that first. Get present in your own space first. Why? Because when you do that, you feel so good about being alive that it's not hard to change bad habits into good habits. Why? Because if I say, oh my God, this is so incredible, I want to be here as long as I can because this is such an incredible thing. I mean, I didn't exist for billions of years. Now I get 100 years if I'm lucky, right? Then I won't exist for billions of years, right? In this form at least, right? And so what do I need to do to make the most of this? Well, number one, be present in this incredible gift that you are, because all you are is dust, water, and air mixed together in a particular way, and you get to have the human experience, right? So when you feel good about being alive, then you want to change the habits that are slowing you down, the habits that are interfering with your health, because you want to be around as long as you can. If you don't feel good because you're not going to where the good feeling is, oh, well, then you're going to be like somewhere not feeling so good, and everything's too much work, and then the hard habits become hard to change. And if you are disconnected from the magnificence of your existence deep enough, then you might become depressed, and you might actually decide to destroy your own body, right? So it's so important, because the information about how to build bone and how to be healthy and how to have energy and the information is around. We live in a world full of information. What's missing is the enthusiasm for living that makes people say, okay, I'm going to do whatever is necessary to have the best life, to be grateful, as in a way, to be grateful for the gift I was given. I'm going to make the most of treating the best way I can. In honor, you could say, in honor of God, even.
In honor.
You know.
In honor, and when we honor God, we honor ourselves too, because it's, to me, it's interchangeable. To that knowledge of God in me. I am not God, but God is in me. So therefore I can do all things. And so with that in mind, Udo, because we only have gosh, this time has gone by so quickly. We only have like 9 minutes left. So I want to talk about one of our original conversations that you and I had, where we talk about flaxseed, omega-3s, omega-6, omega-9, no, or 369 is what we have. But you're saying 6 and 3 are very important. And can you talk about the ratio, and where can we find 6s in our foods and 3s?
Okay, so omega-3 and omega-6 are the two essential fatty acids that come from oils. They're very sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, heat. They need a lot of care. We actually give oils the least care. We put them in the frying pan. Frying is the dumbest thing we've ever invented to do in terms of health, because it increases inflammation. You damage molecules, they become unnatural, then you eat them, they get into your body, they interfere with what's supposed to be going on there, then you get inflammation and you increase the risk of cancer. Frying, fried oils, fry health, fried foods, fry health. Frying, you should take a frying pan, get it out, everybody has one, turn it upside down, bonk yourself on the head with it, throw it out, because it's going to cause you lots of problems, okay? So, and omega-2, 3, and 6 are essential, which means you can't make them. You have to bring them in from outside. You can't live without them. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. So they're really, really important. And if you're not getting enough, your health goes down. If you bring them back, you get your health back. That's how that system works. So 3 and 6 are both essential, and they need to be in the right ratio. We have doubled our intake of omega-6 in the past 100 years and decreased our omega-3 intake to 1/6 of what people got in 1850. So we've completely screwed up the ratio, and they compete in the body. So if you get too much of one, it'll crowd out the other. And then you're going to have deficiency symptoms, even if you have some of that stuff in your diet. 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3s. Most people get enough omega-6s from our cooking oils, but they're partially damaged. And in fact, a tablespoon of an oil that has been treated the way all of our colorless, odorless, tasteless oils are treated, like most of our oils, 1 tablespoon will have, at 1% damage, will have 60 quintillion damaged molecules. That's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. And we take 2 to 4 tablespoons. There's pesticides in those oils. There's plastic in those oils. Then we fry them. You got to multiply that number by another 3 to 6 times. And then we do that every day for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And something goes wrong. And then we say, Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm sick. I always ate good because you didn't know.
Mhm.
You were using oils that are damaged and damaging further in your food use. So omega-3 and 6 essential. Every cell needs them. They are super sensitive, so they need to be made with health in mind. And my worldly claim to fame is that I developed a method for making oils with health in mind, created flaxseed oil in 1986, and then became omega-6 deficient because flax oil is also poorly balanced, and then developed a blend where everything that's good from fats is in it and everything that you should avoid is not in it. So we basically made it a one-stop deal for people in terms of their oil intake. Now, in terms of osteoporosis, since we were talking about that, these omega-3s actually carry minerals around, and they actually inhibit the bone breakdown cells. So omega-3s are also important, aside from magnesium and boron and manganese and zinc, are are required for strong bones. And not only that, they increase your energy levels. So you have more energy, so you're likely to be more physically active. And then you can do your bouncing and your weight bearing exercises. You'll build muscle faster, you'll build bone faster, you'll recover faster from fatigue. If you're injured, you'll heal faster. And omega-3s do all of that. So
where can we find omega-3s in our food naturally? Because we want to look at nature.
yeah,
So
well, yeah, they're heating oils. They come from the polar areas, so South Pole, North Pole, and so flax is probably the richest plant source, the best richest source for omega-3. Omega-6 is in all of the seeds and nuts. So omega-6 you don't need to look for. Omega-3s are harder to find. Flax is the richest source. And then your body makes everything that you find in fish and in the animals that have omega-3 sources like salmon. Your body makes that. If you have omega-3 and 6 in the right ratio, you get enough of it in your body.
and what is the ratio that you look for 3 and 6?
We use a ratio of 2 to twice as much omega-3 as omega-6 and we do that because I've been doing this work for over 40 years now, and we've always seen our best results when the ratio is richer in omega-3 than omega-6, but not so rich that you lose your omega-6s. We've done studies with athletes. 40 to 60% increase in performance within 30 days of starting to take a tablespoon per 50 pound of body weight per day of the oil blend. That is 2 to 1. It's Udo's oil, actually, right?
Yeah.
And in 30 days, they had 40 to 60% increased performance if they did their sport to exhaustion. There's nothing on this planet that can give you that kind of gains. No training program does it that well. And all you're doing is you're actually bringing something that you need that's missing, that's too low in most people, in 99% of the population.
I would love for my daughter, Brittany, to learn about this. I don't know if she knows about it, but she just ran an Ironman, half Ironman. She did a half Ironman, and she does marathons, and she's a pacer. I mean, she's an animal. She's an animal. But I would love, because I've done research on what you helping people that are runners and with the oils. Are you talking about the your oil for
that's what we did the study on. And the person who set the record for the longest distance run in 24 hours was 6 marathons this guy ran. He ran it on Udo's oil, and he said he got 25% more staying power from using the oil, and he set the record on it.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's like it's unbelievable how good it is. Yes. I'm 81. I use it every day, right? I use it with, of course, I eat mostly plant-based, mostly whole food, mostly organic. I use lots of herbs and spices. And I use the oil. I mix it in tahini. I dump the tahini oil because it's an omega-6 oil. Put mine oil in because it's a better oil. And then I dip my raw vegetables, broccoli. I love broccoli. But I dip my vegetables in it, and just that's how I eat.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this is,
good.
I am so glad we got reconnected. I'm glad that we finally got to reconnected and that we're kicking off the year, learning different things and kind of reprogramming ourselves to learn whatever is true and be open to whatever is true, because there's so many lies out there. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
You're such a wonderful truth teller. Thank you so much, Udo, for being in the classroom today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm looking forward to our next conversation. And for those of you who want to learn more about Udo, you can go to udoerasmus.com, or you can go to the blog at whenyouneedafriend.com, click on his name, and it'll take you there. This has been a great conversation about mindset, about, knowing that you are in choice. You can choose love and you can choose life. And I love that theme for today's class. So thank you so much, Udo. And for those of you know that we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Udo Erasmus wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day
ever.
Yes, that's the best ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any